Welcome back. For over 130 years, East Side House Settlement has been a source of hope for those in need. Founded in 1891, its mission was to serve the community through education. In 1963, recognizing greater needs elsewhere, the organization moved to the South Bronx. Executive Director Daniel Diaz joins me to discuss the organization's ongoing commitment to assisting those in need. Daniel, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I kind of gave a little bit of a go, like a run through of the history of the organization, but can you just explain, what inspired the founding of East Side House Settlement and how has its mission evolved over 130 years?
Well, Eastside House was founded as a settlement house, and most settlement houses start in the 1800s. And so ours started in 1891, and the founding was to help the community members, the people that lived in the community who needed help with education and workforce. And over 133 years, we've been doing just that. And so today, our mission is just as strong as it was 133 years ago. Although it's not in the Upper East Side of Manhattan, it's in the South Bronx, we still kept the name of Eastside House. And our services really focus on the two things, education and workforce. We believe that those two things are the legs that are going to help our community members and our families walk and even run sometimes into the economic mainstream.
Now, I think this is really interesting. I don't really hear often about a lot of organizations that kind of move and relocate, but I think it kind of further proves this idea of like really going where the organization is needed, and that was in the South Bronx. Can you just explain what impact that has had so far on the community that it's now serving?
Well, when we moved to the South Bronx in 1963, it was a very courageous decision by the board. Many organizations will stay and try to stick it out where they are. The board in 1963 decided, we're going to go to the South Bronx. It was literally burning at that time, and trying to figure out, can our services be better utilized in other places? And the South Bronx is where we started in 1963, and the families and the community members that we serve there were just as open to the idea of having a company come in and wrap our services around a full community. So our youngest participant is 18 months, and our oldest participant is 102. And so we serve from twinkle to wrinkle. And in all the areas that you could possibly think of within education and workforce. So we can have great grandma in our older adult congregate meal center, and we can have great grandchild in our early childhood center. But all together, we make sure that all of our services are really affecting the families for change.
Now, I definitely want to go into a little bit more about those services. I understand there are educational services and career services. Can you explain a little bit more about the mission of those services and how they help the community?
Sure, we believe that education and workforce are just like I said, those two legs, but it's also one without the other is not even worth it, right? So why do you go to school? You go to school to get a good job. And so we try to make sure that all of our programs for our young people have a career path at the end of it, and that career path could have a living wage where they would not have to utilize public assistance or anything like that. And so we have 29 locations. Our locations are school programs. They're located in the high schools, elementary schools, middle schools, and we also have community centers as well. And those centers work for people that they can come from in school, out of school, in the neighborhood, in the community. And so all of our education programs, we believe, are cutting edge because they're all attached to an employer. The employer works with us to figure out what the skills are that the students and the families need in order to get the job in the future.
Now, how does East Side House maintain its partnerships with local schools, especially, the New York City Department of Education? How does it maintain that partnership, and what does it look like for those students involved?
So we're being recorded. I'm not going to say a couple things.
Okay.
But I will say that we maintain our partnerships really well because the principals that we partner with and the community members that we work with on these things really help to set the stage for us. And so schools cannot do it all on their own. They're teaching to the test, if you will, sometimes. A lot of the students have other needs that are not necessarily being addressed in their school. Some guidance counselors have 150, 200 people on their caseload. Eastside House brings in full-time staff members, advisors, student counselors to work with the families, to work with the young people in their schools. So this way, attendance, college goals, employment goals, all of those things could be focused on by Eastside House, and the schools can really work on educating the young person.
Now, I want to mention again, it's been 130 plus years of service, which is amazing because that's longer than any of us have ever been alive. But, I'm curious to know what are some of the key achievements or milestones the organization has seen over those 130 plus years?
We have seen so many, from young people growing up in our early childhood programs to now them running some of the programs at Eastside House. From when I started Eastside House 20 years ago, I know it was 20 years ago, we had a graduating class of about 75, 80 students. This past year, we graduated 1,200 students from our high school programs. Of those young people, 800 of them received jobs. And so thinking about moving things and moving young people and their families into the economic mainstream, we are trying to get that to where 1,200 kids, all of them have jobs at the end, and they could choose at that point whether to go to college, whether to go to school, whether to do both. You can do it all at Eastside House.
That's amazing. Now, in what ways does Eastside House engage with the community to ensure that its program meets the needs of those it serves? So, what does feedback look like, or how you are getting that feedback?
We have a lot of groups. We have young people groups in our community centers that they're advisory councils, if you will. We also have those groups in the school-based programs. We have those groups in our older adult centers. So even our senior citizens or older adults, they let us know exactly what they need or what they want, and we try to work with each one of them to make sure that those needs are met.
Now, how does teamwork and empathy play a part in the culture of Eastside House?
It plays a big part because many of our family members and are very similar to our people that work with us. I'm from the Bronx. I'm running Eastside House in the Bronx. And so a lot of the people that are there are from the community as well. And so a lot of them have endured things that are the people that we serve endure as well. So that empathy is there no matter what because they know what they're dealing with. They know that the same crack curb that was there when they were 15, 16 years old and they tripped on, somebody else is tripping on now. So let's work together to try to fix that crack that somebody else didn't fix so many years ago.
And I also want to highlight that the organization is now serving more than 18,000 children and families annually, which is a lot of people. Can you talk about the impact that it's having on those 18,000 people annually?
So every single person that we touch, it's education workforce, even if it's in our older adult centers. We want to make sure that our older adults have a chance. Some of them need to go back to work. Our young ones, they're getting training and trying to figure out what they would like to be when they grow up. And then our high school age youth, which we serve about 6,500 of those a day, they are getting the intense services of making sure that they're getting placed in the right settings. So if you want to be in the healthcare industry, we're going to make sure that you have a great partner with a great hospital that can get you a job at the end of it. If you don't want to do blood and guts and you want to do something else, we can get you into something else, whether you want to be in the construction industry, you want to go to OSHA 30, OSHA 10 classes, all of the different things that you could possibly think of to build stackable credentials to then get people employed.
Now, there's so many different areas of the community that you're serving. How do you manage or, kind of take the time to focus on what each group needs and ensure that they're getting the most out of that?
We have an awesome team at Eastside House, and our team has been here a long time. I just mentioned to you before I was there 20 years. The head of my programs, all of our programs, she's been with me 17 years. The head of my early childhood programs, 10 years. So we have a lot of people with decades-long service in the community. And that team helps to really galvanize and get the support that they need in order to make sure that every single person that comes in contact with Eastside House gets the services that they need and they desire. So for instance, one of the newest things that we're going to be opening up next August is our new charter school. This charter school came out of the need that we found from our community members. So we were finding at some point that over 70% of the people that were going into college were not finishing college. And that was embarrassing. And so we were saying a lot of people were leaving college and they had demoralized goals, they had debt, they weren't things that were building to something positive. And so we said, what can we put in their back pocket? And so one of those things was a certification and also a job. And so we are now building a charter school that is fully career technical education within the healthcare industry and partnering with New York Presbyterian Hospital. And so that when our young people cross the stage, they have a diploma in the left hand and a job offer in the right.
That's amazing. And I understand that you're also kind of working with our youngest educators. Can you tell me a little bit more about the Early Childhood Center that's going to be happening really soon?
We just cut the ribbon on the Eugene G. Oliver Jr. Education Center in Concourse Village. That is a center that's going to serve the early childhood ages of 18 months to 4 years old. And the difference in this one is we're going to focus on children with special needs. There's a huge need in the Bronx for programs to work with children with special needs. We believe that the advocacy that's necessary for a family member to, I don't want to say fight, but work with the city in order to get their child the OT, the speech, the PT, all of those pieces that they need can sometimes take 9 to 12 months, and we're trying to shorten that time. And the Honorable Eugene G. Oliver Jr. Center will do just that.
That's amazing. Can you expand a little bit more on just the idea that it's going to be focusing on children with special needs? Because I do think that here in the Bronx, we're already facing so many challenges. And on top of that, for parents, that can be an extra challenge. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, in our other early childhood centers, we have 4 other centers. We were seeing that about 30% of the kids that were coming in had special needs. They needed something. They needed speech. They needed OT. They needed recall. They needed muscle movements in their mouths and PT. And so we did not have a lot of those services at those centers. And we said we have to create something that specifically addresses those needs. And so families were asking for it as well, because they were in shock as to how long it took to get these services from early intervention and then from the Department of Education. And so we decided that we were going to take up that challenge, roll up our sleeves, if you will, and you know, pick up bigger boxing gloves to help the parents fight the fight for their children.
Now, how can individuals or organizations get involved with Eastside House to support its mission and services?
Well, you can definitely go on our website at eastsidehouse.org. You can, if your child is in need and you think that the charter school was something that you wanted your child to be involved in, our first 9th grade class is going to start next August. So if your child's in 8th grade, our school could be for you. If you're in need of employment services, go to our website. We have all of the numbers there. If you call and you ask for the specific programs that are listed on our website, somebody will get back in touch with you right away.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation. And I also want to say congratulations on 20 years. That's pretty amazing on the work that you're doing in the community.
My hairline looked a lot different 20 years ago, I'll tell you that. But thank
well,
you.
yeah, I want to thank you so much for that. To learn more about this organization's efforts, please go to their website at eastsidehouse.org. Stay tuned. We have more for you right after this.